Back to streaming now. Let's see if my voice clips too much or not. Let's see. Good news is we're on TikTok now. So it's I never was on TikTok, but now I had to wait 30 days for my TikTok account to be ready for streaming. I guess they just don't want anyone to have stream right away by opening up an account. So I waited my 30 days. If you're here seeing this for the first time on TikTok, you can see the old videos on YouTube if you go and search for event modeling, and yeah, to see kind of like what we're doing in this project. For now, I'm just going to continue on where we left off last, and that is instrumenting this testing framework. So we really don't want to have this checkpoint test to be in here. So we want to get rid of this here, and I'm waiting for it to be highlighted so that I have the other brace here. Yeah, so I'm here. So this lines up perfectly. Okay, good. So I know that I have to delete this one here. I'll start by deleting the closing brace, because then I don't want to hunt for the closing brace later. And checkpoint test not defined. Not okay. Right, okay, so that's kind of how we want to do things. And we're gonna have to roll up all of these tries down here and shift tab them in. I kind of want to make sure that I'm kind of taking care of my brace matching. And for those of you that are doing Python, don't give me the attitude about indents are better. You make a mistake with an indent and the whole thing doesn't work. So the braces are good now. We did take out that check. So if I have this not whatever, then I do. Okay, so if I'm testing the success of a command, right? If the check is not undefined, then yeah, then we have that. In here, we need to test the exception. So thrown by a command. Handler. We need that if statement in here as well. So if test doesn't equal whatever, then, oh, interesting. It's already doing this stuff for me, which is great. And otherwise, so okay, good. So if we have that, an exception and an event, because up here we have okay, so everything for a command is here, and then we check all of these other invariants. So both things, we're testing the state change. Otherwise, we're doing that. Otherwise, we do nothing. Like that could be something else. But definitely, if we have state, we're testing. Definitely, if we have a command, we're testing. Now, whether we have a test method in there or not, then yeah. Oh, I'm wondering if Yordis is here. He had a question, like he doesn't agree with a command throwing more than one event. Yeah, that's my opinion. I'm going to make a simpler system by giving that guarantee. And if for some reason you need 2 events from one command, add a processor to trigger what you need from that. If you need a to-do list that the initial command, adds all that extra info for the second one to also work, do it. I'm I'm done with proliferating more and more and more patterns. So yeah, I think event modeling kind of taught me to really simplify things quite a bit, and so yeah, we'll see how this affects people in the community and all of that. But yeah, driving for simplicity is not going to be without challenging some accepted ways of working. So anyway, also I think tonight I'm going to have I'm going to change the scrolling here, like I said, at some point. And the podcast episode, I've already finished editing for the next one, so that should be published right after this stream. So as soon as I'm done this, there'll be a new podcast episode out. So yeah, I hope to see if you learned anything there. We're diving into a couple of topics such as knowledge gaps, or just gaps in event sourcing knowledge when people adopt event sourcing across a team. Each team member will have, you know, multiple, like, different aspects of it that they get and they don't get, and you kind of need someone with experience with event sourcing to kind of catch you with that. And that goes for anything. That's not a unique trait of event sourcing. That's a unique trait of adopting newer practices, period. So like you want to learn to, you know, ride a horse, how to do agile, how to do whatever, it's the same concept. So anyway, here let's make sure that we have if checkpoint doesn't identify, then yeah, that looks kind of good. We kind of want that, I guess. Yeah, but that's wrong, because we don't have oh yeah, that's not what we wanted. Just bad checkpoints. It's this that we want to have changed. And I think, yeah, that keeps it the same. This is correct. Running state view test via, okay. We don't really have a type here. So we don't have a state view lookup. So I'm just going to say not supported yet. Console log not supported yet. So we're supporting both schemes here, the implicit testing and the explicit testing, simply by injecting these if test is not defined at each point. And if it's defined, we continue to do what we did before, just run the test that's defined in our test definitions up above. However, you know, now we can start to, yeah, get rid of some of these things. This is quite interesting. I like that it understood how to do this, although I'm not sure if that's the correct. Yeah, I have to back out of all this. I think it made a bad decision here along the way for this exceptions. I don't want to just accept what it did for the exceptions. So we're happy with all of this. This is the one that we will So yeah, that's correct. If we have an exception, we just check the exception is here. And the test, I think I think we have way too much explicit stuff on the exception testing in the actual. Where's an exception? Event, command, event, exception here. So this is, yeah. So we're doing too much here. We'll always have a call to run with expected exceptions. So this definitely can be very quickly turned into a generic way of doing things. And more so than the other property stuff. We're really just examining the contents of an exception instead. So I really want to yeah, get rid of this function altogether because that we're just checking for the name of the exception for now. I don't know if we want to populate more data in these exceptions. Anyway, we'll see. We can probably add extra data should we need, but again, I think it'll serve us well. So I can really remove this very quickly. I think let's just be brave and do those two changes at the same time. So we can test both things. So if checkpoint is not right, and then we want to do, we do want that run with expected error, events lookup, checkpoint. That's interesting because we also have an exception that can be thrown, not just the event, but the event that, oh yeah, so we have an issue here. Here is the issue. Here we know that the resulting event is this, and because we map this here, to the event, and we don't have a command type. When we have an exception, there is no event to look up for what this command is part of. So, I think what needs to happen is we don't want an object here because this, yeah, in the previous things we have an event which has the type. Do I want to have the event type in here? Failed event type. So failed to, yeah. I think the other thing is, well, actually that's not a problem. So we have multiple events. So multiple different types of events that could happen as a result of a command. So that's fine. We can map from any type of event back to a command handler, and that could be the same command handler for a couple of different event types, but not the other way around. It's definitely a one-to-many relationship for that. So I think in here, I don't want it to be too clumsy in terms of how we do this, and it might be revisiting this lookup. Because we have an events lookup. And then we can have so we have an events lookup. I don't want to have to add any more for the types of failures. Because see this thing here, throw new error. It's kind of bringing back to like can throw type of languages that where you have to explicitly say what a method or a function is capable of throwing. It's part of the definition. It would be a good question for ChatGPT. Is there a way to store the possible errors that function could throw? If I do this question with the code base, it might kind of get a gist of what I'm getting at. Wondering. Okay, so it's kind of doing like the C type of stuff. But now what I'm starting to show is that I'm making kind of a repository of different things. I have processors, I have events lookup, and so that's kind of not the best. I don't want to have to go up and down between things, but you know what? I'm gonna do the most brain dead simple thing right now. I have an events lookup. I mean, I'm doing errors lookup now, right? And because this particular command handler can throw a specific type of error, we can start to say what that's going to be. So, and rather than doing this rather than doing this particular string, we'll need to define const. And I don't know if I want a new error there. I just want to have a new. That looks a little better. And so when we have an error, the only thing is I'd like to have some more input on here when I have an exception. I want to go to something that conference named exception, right? So because I have this type, I'm dealing with this type the whole time. For the successes, I want to have the same convention. So conference named is the exception. Like what we're trying to do is to name the conference. So conference named exception, and maybe do exception for conference named. Conference named, and then in there we want to say, so there could be a couple of different type of exceptions that we would have here. This time we have one, but I really want to have the reason in here. And I don't know if we want to start to nest these into some sort of objects, but right now let's just do a convention for a string and see where it falls apart as we add more features. So, and having the exception right at the top of the signature of the function is kind of in line with how you have some of these languages that force you to declare what could be thrown. They're kind of up near the actual name of the function, up near the top, along with the parameters and everything else as to what it can possibly throw. So I don't know if someone knows some other. I don't want to make this too JavaScript specific as well, but if there are some syntactical sugar things within JavaScript where we could actually make a more interesting structure to all this, so we get some, some more interesting ways of being able to quickly author this, although we're going to be doing this graphically most of the time. But even if I want to do this, yeah, see, I don't want to get away from just having text in here, right? I really want, I don't like this because it's just a string. So it should be a const, which should have the string underneath. I think this is fine. We'll see how it goes, but we want exception conference named. With same name, with no change. I think that's good. Okay. I like that. I don't know if, yeah. There's no real other way out of this. Again, I do want to have everything related sitting together. If I have something that gives me kind of like IntelliSense when I press a dot, it'll require me to have an object, and that'll require me to kind of have this whole thing as an object, which may actually be, a viable solution to this somehow, where, even the app posts here are kind of functions that are pointed to by a giant object that but then at the end we just iterate through everything. So yeah, I mean this entire framework might be for JavaScript anyway, for Node.js might be kind of funky and pretty cool, but we really want to make sure that we're as explicit as possible as to what's happening. And so let's just first make sure that this new way of working here with this event, this exception, sorry, you know, we're still going to have this, but right, so this kind of now the problem is that this exception is an error object. And so our test runner is expecting a string. I think we need a test runner to expect either or for this point. So if we have a test defined with an exception, oh, because we're using it right there. Okay, it's really up to the implementation of the test. And so in this case, this test is really right beside where we started to use this new convention, which is fine. Where we have assert caught error is what we return. Yeah, so this run with expected error. Well, let's just see what that is. Return caught error. So we are only getting the message, of course. So we have to change our test in here to deal with that for now. Because I don't want to change the rest of the implementation yet. Or do I? I'm going to have a lot of failures. You know what? These actually should be just deleted now. So if I'm going to do this, I'm just going to remove this. And I'm just going to cut it so I know what the structure is to make a generic version of it. And it's pretty easy to do, but just keeps my train of thought the same. So I copy that, but now I don't want this test at all. And so our test runner takes care of a missing test where we have an exception. So this is where we have our test runner right here, and our exception is tested here. If we have the test, we just run it because we're not using the new format for that. But here, exception test via auto runner. I think we'll have to probably find another name for that, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. So we don't need the run with expected error here anymore because we can do exceptions lookup. How do we do that? So what's our lookup for this? I mean, the other thing to, this timeline can only really test one command type, or interesting. No, I think it's fine this way, because we could have multiple different types of events spat out by the same command, and not multiple, but different types of events of a single event. That single event can be of multiple event types, or it could be an exception. So yeah, I want to have I still want to have the lookup for this. So let's have this exception here, yeah. Because what we're doing is we're getting there's been naming already, and we named it EM open spaces, and now we try to do it a second time, name it the same thing, and we have an exception that the conference is named with no change. We don't allow that. That's an exception. That's fine. So yeah, now we have that as a lookup, except that it's a error. Do we complicate things with a whole error structure right now, or just make it a constant string? I think we want the error object. Because if there's, if there's more stuff that we want to add to it, we could always do this trick. Right? So we have a new error with the message in there, but we also added a custom property on there in case we want some other things in there, which is interesting. We could also just overwrite the name, sorry, that message. I think just adding extra info, like expected name or something, we could definitely have this error have its own structure to what it needs to say if we really need to go there. But I don't want to confuse things right now with decorating things with more stuff we need. We can do that later. Right now we have the error lookup telling us that for this for this event. Oh no, for the sorry, that's not right. So error lookup is something else. So it's the same thing as this, except for the conference named, we have the exception. And we have the same function. Okay, that's what we needed. So we need a way to, I'm wondering if this will work. It should. I mean, it's kind of a bloated way of doing things. And then how do you yeah, and will the lookup actually work if we add some extra things into the exception? To be determined. I think what we're getting here is really an ability from that one row on the timeline to find out what, you know, what this function is. And I'm wondering if you can do, I think you can do this. Let's give this some combine assignments. Okay. There's syntax in JavaScript that allows you to combine assignments, right? Is that gonna work? I guess one way to find out. This is kind of interesting because this will be kind of a really long chain of these things. If we have, imagine this has another event that it could have, and imagine has a couple more different types of errors that it can have. This would be kind of an ugly syntax, although we could kind of string it along. Oh no, it can't because JavaScript ignores semicolons sometimes. I think it only works for variables, right? That looks horrible, but whatever. I don't know if this will work. Will this work well? The first assignment. The function. Okay. Oh, that sucks. So yeah, that's not gonna work. So that's interesting that we need the same object to actually make this work, which is the const here. So as long as we're using const throughout, should be fine. Yeah, definitely not what I expected to be doing, but the interesting thing is we already have one place where this works, and we have a second place where it should work as well. But I want to test the throwing of the error here. So if we don't have a test, then we should use that convention. But wait a second, that's not it here. We have that here. Okay, so we already changed that. Now we just got to finish our implementation of the test runner, unwind that properly. And this is the exception. So this is the one where we used how it used to work, and it'll still keep working like this. But here where the test is undefined, we have the result, and we don't want to we want to run that with the expected error. We want the checkpoint exception. Error lookup exception. Get the events. Get the command. That captures the message. So the result is the checkpoint exception dot message. Checkpoint exception message. Yeah, so that'll work for now. I think we will obviously refactor the, well, not refactor, it's going to have different functionality. So we're going to have a different function to run with expected error where we have, where we're returning the actual object. For now, just checking the string for the message is good enough. All right. Switch, get your S together because you're a constant source of spam. Okay. So I think that should work. One way to find out. Oh, we're getting a lot of errors here. We have a very big problem because we're actually failing at test failed, but it also has 1298 name. Oh, right. Yeah. So here's the other problem. We have the test name. Because we now don't have names for the tests. So how do we solve this problem? So we have the statement here, you know, name should be changeable. I think we just have a message object here, not message, but because this is information. Like the names of these tests are like it is information. It's saying what this step is attempting to prove. Maybe purpose. I like that. Let's do purpose. So when we have nothing here, command. Escape that and do purpose. Okay, let's go with the auto-generated one. That's fine. Let's see, now we can do purpose. That is good. So that's what we can do before destroying that. And in fact, we can switch every time we have a test, we can add a purpose and just switch the name to, yeah, see, that's good. So if we just go through these, that's good. Right? Command. And that's actually not where it needs to go. This needs to also, well, in the form, okay, so in the case of an exception, what do we call our, let's look at some of the other tests where we have a failure. Do we have any more tests that have a failure? Exception, yes. So we have another exception here. So we do have a purpose here because it is the same thing. So yeah, in the exception, we need to also have a purpose. Go back here. Where's our exception? There's the exception. And we're going to have different scenarios for which the same error occurs. So we can have the purpose kind of be the nuance of why we're running something. So that looks good. Okay. So if we have the function name, we have to grab the purpose. So that'll be later, but yeah, if we don't have an test, then we look for purpose for the name. Okay, that's going to fix that. So anytime that we have a checkpoint test outside of this if loop here, we have to check if we have a purpose. So checkpoint dot purpose. Give me that. Otherwise, give me checkpoint test name. Oh, checkpoint. I don't need that extra thing here. I don't need that here. Okay, so that's good. And that's good. Okay, let's see if that fixes things a little bit further. Nope. Cannot read property of name on 1302. So we have, okay, if test does not equal undefined. Problem. Nope, 1302, still a problem. So I see. So we're probably running for we're running for in places where there is no tests defined, and it could be just an event thing. So that's why we're not getting this. So how do we deal with that? So in here we are on the try, and in the try we check if there's a command, then we do that, and we check if there's a state. And we say, yeah, okay, because of that logic that we changed. So we are now on rows that have no tests defined. And so we really need to do this log in all of these places, unfortunately. And the summary has to be appended in each one of these. Unless there's a better way to do this. Well, I guess we can have, we should be testing. So we really will have only purpose or tests here. And then finally we'll get rid of the tests. So I think it's if checkpoint or I think we just need to do that because now we can keep yeah, this logic is horrible. But that's okay. I think I am okay with this. Because that'll obviously, I don't like relying on this much. We had the, we could have kept this simpler by having this if around all of the things. I think that's what we need to do, is really come back to the original if in here. Yeah, I think because we had the test in here, if checkpoint has a test, but now we need to have purpose or that. So that's actually better. And so now we need the try to be indented. Try catch to be indented. We need to close the brace here. And that means we don't have to check this here. And we can move this back. Here, this should work now because we're doing either or. And here, this should work as well because we have that. So we kind of worked it back to the way it was before. And we're back. Okay. Let's see what it did for the first one. Test that the conference name is set to the new name. Very good. I think we are not getting the expected error test. I want to make that a little bit more explicit here in the output of our, so we're running here testing success of a command. Testing exception. And this is where the purpose has to have the exception, the word exception in here. So good. Great. So I kind of want the word exception at the beginning of this. We may be able to get a better convention for this later. But right now, I just want to just be able to visually see the word exception up here in the tests that we have. Exception should be thrown if the conference is not changed. Excellent. Okay, great. So that I think works. And we could probably, now we're kind of in a limbo state here supporting both formats. I'd like to go in and continue to edit all our tests down to this nice minimal way of working. Notice how much better this looks, where you have a command and the purpose of the test, right? And here we could have, yeah, the same thing, but we have both, which is interesting. So we jump into one of them, but now, you know, deleting this one should immediately get rid of this event type. I'm actually surprised this event type didn't throw an exception, because it's probably picking this one up already. But this event meta type should be conference named, and result type should be this. So I'm not sure why this one is not failing. Let me just check, because that's, let's get rid of the purpose, and this we should be able to get a failure, but we're not. We're getting this name should be changeable. And we're not failing on this assert, which is causing me worry here. So let's just see the output. Actually, I won't be able to see anything in there. That's too much output. We're going to have to get that sorted at some point. But this test should fail. So our test runner is not catching this issue. And we're looking for name should be changeable. Name should be changeable. It's not even running. Test that the conference name is set to a new name. Name should be changeable. It's passing. So name should be changeable. What I'm thinking is that it's defaulting to... It's doing two things. Okay. It's defaulting to doing the comparison, which I think I should... somehow have in... I want to pass that into the... I don't want to just console out that. I actually want it to be in the summary of that. So let's see if we can change the convention just to see which ones we're running for now. This is all temporary, but here we have the runner, which is testing successes. And what's happening in this case is it's not finding the test. Yeah, state change and testing success of a command. That's where we're at. And in this case, we have the test. Let's see this again. Walk through this together. So we have a test. So it's going to run this, which is interesting. It tells me that the set conference name is still doing the wrong thing here. Return name command meta type. Okay, that's good. It's meta and type. I want to add a slice name limiting here. I want to run just certain parts of this. So we got to evolve our little test runner here to basically run certain tests. But I really want to figure out why this is happening, because we have an assert. Maybe it's in the try catch. We have an error here for sure. There's no way that this is correct. Like, I could just maybe even throw something here. You know, is it going to... No, it's failing. Why is my assert... Okay, so that tells me that there's nothing wrong with a test runner. Just throwing that exception's fine. How are my asserts written then? Did I have a problem with the asserts? If not conditioned, then we throw. Okay. which means that this if I do something stupid, is this still working? A equals B. This will fail. Yeah, okay, so that's kind of stumping me. So whatever the event has and whatever the result is passed in here, and so it's back to the test runner. I just changed that type. Was that also? So wait a second. Before we do that, let's just make sure that this continues to work. We're back to passing tests. If we make the type wrong, are we just ignoring the types here? Yes, we are. So it's never even getting that. So the type testing is not working. But it's really just running the test. So it's the events, checkpoint event. Oh, is this? Oh, it's the result. Given the events, when I do the command, then I have this event. And so this is the problem, is that we're passing all this stuff off to where we can make such mistakes every single time. Now, what is the mistake I'm making here? Because I'm getting passed in, theoretically, this event. So I get a result from actually running this. And I compare it to the event. Oh, I know, because type doesn't exist. See, that's the problem. That is the problem. See, if I have if I have that, then of course essentially this assert tells us nothing. And this should pass. Oh no, it didn't. What does it say? It's failing in a different place. Now that's working. Names should be changeable as the name. Okay, and that's failing in the right spot. Okay, renames allowed. Names should be changeable to due to whatever. Okay. So now we go to result dot type. Just 1 second here. Okay, so back to this, seeing what is at the core of this issue. So assert that the type is not undefined. But it should be undefined, so it should fail, and it should fail on this renames, just under this renames allowed. Okay, is it under renames allowed? Yes. The test, this is the name of the test, and it failed due to this will fail. Type undefined. And if we do the same thing, so wait a second, doesn't equal undefined? Good God. Let's just throw that in here. Some ugly output from this, but so yeah, it's correct. I mean, everything's correct. Something to do with a test runner here. But yeah, this obviously is not enough. So if I mean, it should be this, right? We need to make sure that they're not defined, and then we need to, but we shouldn't have to do that, but we should actually correct this. You know, this is just making a mountain out of a molehill because, you know, we're comparing the wrong thing. This should really be the meta. And that's why it's, you know, so now it should fail because we have the wrong type. Yeah, perfect. And so now we can fix this. And it works. Okay. So that's just us getting ahead of ourselves here in terms of changing the tests to have the new conventions. But now, of course, we can switch to this purpose thing, right? And therefore, we can delete all of these lines here, because this will have the same test. And we don't want the word test in here. Test, okay. So conference name is changeable. Name should be changeable. So purpose, name should be changeable. I think that's what we do. And now we'll have, look at that. I mean, deleting lines of code is so absolutely fantastic. You gotta love that. We got a better convention for doing this. Still running. Let's take a look at the output if it's janky at all. I don't think it is. Name should be changeable. Renames allowed. Name should be changeable. Perfect. So notice that we're also getting rid of some of the jankiness of like filtering out the underscores and stuff like that from the function names, which is good. This looks good. We don't need that. We could say get rid of that. Say name should. Yeah. And that way we can, of course, get rid of this. Now we understand that this meta type thing is totally out of there. I do want to catch that we are doing this correctly here and that these are defined. So when we have the types being checked, I don't want that anymore. And we need to assert that we have results. We just need to do one meta dot type doesn't equal undefined. Should have a type. That's going to catch a lot of the things we didn't convert yet, right? Because I think this is kind of failing. It would be interesting to see if we get failures for that. We don't, because we've changed things accordingly. I.e. some of these old tests are still running and we haven't changed the format of the test syntax itself. So I gotta go in about half an hour, unfortunately. But I think we're going to be done with this much nicer syntax for the tests. So let's just see how far we get. And then we'll be able to turn off some of the test runner, the old test runner stuff, which is going to add a little bit of code, but it's going to take out a lot of code up here where it counts. We'll see how nice and simple these are becoming here. I have an event, a command, and the purpose of this test. Awesome. Because yeah, I'd like to glue those together somehow, but I think it's good enough for now because we know we have to test it, but we kind of have to give a reason for testing it, just like we would name a test. It's not enough just to rely on saying, hey, these things are adding up. Or maybe we do. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there could be, you know, the, where do we have it here? We have this, we have these statements that we could put in as a step. It's not in this particular test, but we have it in the further ones down along. So I like the fact that we have a convention now for naming these exceptions. I still don't like the way this looks. So we have two collections that need to be updated to have the same pointer back. So if, I don't know, a different data structure would probably be better. Or a helper function or something. Yeah. I guess we could have a function. This looks horrible. I don't like this syntax at all. I would like to say that we want to map lookups, map command lookups, or add command lookups. And here we could have so we could have a collection of conference named. Here we would have errors. We could have multiple errors, right? So and that all gets mapped to that. And we could have the order in something that is a little bit, makes a little bit more sense. So maybe we have that as the first parameter instead. And it's not command, it's command handler lookups. And so here we would have the set its name, right? And I think that's better because now we can have a function like that. And then we can do for each events lookup. That looks, yeah, that looks a lot better because now we can say that for each event type we have the same command handler and all of that. Okay, so I think that is better. These are all stupid simple. I'm going to inline them just on one line here each. They read like sentences, so they should not take up too much space. So I like that a lot better. I can just put the dangling thing here and be done with it. And then I can move this whole thing up out of the way. It is part of the infrastructure for our lookups and all that, so it deserves to sit here. And why am I... Oh yeah, these guys got confused by the dangling Yeah, VS Code is horrible. It does not understand that I have a trailing thing here. That's all the processors functionality. This is all our lookups functionality, all our HTTP wrappers, which you still have to get to the next ones. These probably have to have some more concise way of yeah, it's very white space intense. I understand that yeah, like I don't like this at all. I mean, I know this is two separate timelines, but this here, for example, with these 3 checkpoints, we only have 3 checkpoints for something very, very stupid. And yeah, so I'd like to find a better syntax for this, just the way to squeeze these braces to be, you know, a little bit better at. Like for a single value, I can put this on the same line, but then when we have multiple lines, well, we'll see. So let's just keep going through this. I think we got this entire thing using the new syntax. Here we have how many changes did we do? So we can kind of work backwards from this. We have state view stuff now to deal with, which I think is okay. Let's kind of review what we changed here in terms of our setup. So we've definitely changed the way the testing's done. I think we're working on the testing, but we also did change some of the naming. So the other thing that I was kind of not happy with is the lack of convention around the slices names and things like that. So I think that should be addressed at some other point. But let's just slog through. At least let's get rid of the tests being different. I want this this to work properly. And the interesting thing is that these lookups being able to look up these things is simply for testing. So I kind of don't want these to be here. I think this is part of our testing framework. So I'm rethinking that all this cruft actually exists beside the function, because it's not needed for the functionality of, well, maybe the exception is not. We kind of forced that issue, and I kind of wanted them to be consts anyway, so that you don't have just, you know, explicit values in here. If you want to throw the same error somewhere else, I wouldn't want to rely on search and replace for it and all that. So, but looking up events and the errors to find out what, you know, what command handler to run, that is a pure purpose of this new format for the tests. So I think we need to associate them with the tests like that. I think they actually go together with the tests. This stuff supports all this. I'm thinking, is there a way to actually shove this into the test runner itself so we don't have this as part of the I mean, at that point, we could basically say that because in a slice test, we have the yeah. So you know what? We really don't need to do this. Yeah, let's get rid of that code. We're going to get rid of these lookups and error lookups. Because everything that's being called here is this. So this slice test should always have the function in here. And honestly, we could just remove the slice name and just have the function. Test function. This is actually perfect. We need that instead. And then we can just have that as the set conference name. Perfect. And here we have the timelines. Now we don't have to worry about that. But yeah, I thought that, see, this is the convention that is so good. And actually for traditional testing, we would have the suite under test. So we'd have one class that we'd instantiate and all that. So this is along the same lines. So this shouldn't be too alien for anyone. But now what we can do is just nuke all of this stuff. And nuke all of this stuff. Now we don't need to worry about what to run. That's even more code gone. And now we have, instead of a test name, we have, or instead of a slice name as we have here, see, slice name, no, we don't have that. We have the room's state view, right? So let's just make it work for both, and then we'll continue to get rid of this stuff. So our convention is going to have, for each slice, summary, testing slice, slice name. If it's not there, oh, it knows what to do. That's crazy. My goodness. Okay, wow. That is nuts. But the nice thing about this is we don't have to do the events lookup type anymore. We now have the slice test function. Makes way more sense. Beautiful. And we just call it as we want. And here we have the same thing where we don't have an error lookup. We really just have the slice test function, and that works. That's really good. And I hope that works. It works. Wonderful. So we have, yeah, we have this ugly set conference name function, which is great. I think we can have, you know, testing slice, blah, 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 function name. And if it's a slice, function name, and then we can have dot replace. I think it's just underscores with spaces. Would that work? Give it a go. Seems to have worked. So now we have, oh, and global, right? Replace, does it replace all? Yeah, I think it is. Yes, set conference name. Beautiful. Could probably capitalize it on a whole bunch of other stuff, but that's really good. So chopping away a lot more of the fluff that we didn't need. So I was happy to delete all that. We keep things a little bit more lean. Less code is better. We still have this exception thing. I don't know if there's a better idea for it. I think it's good. I think there's a good convention. Explicitly knowing what this thing can throw, because we aren't going into some weird way of implementing all our business logic a different way to different levels of depth. It's always at one level. So asking for the person writing the business logic to upfront tell you what can be thrown is not an onerous task. That's actually a good thing. So yeah, I like how these are coming together now. And let's see if we have the next, let's finish with all the tests. Get that out of our hair because I think we got a much better convention now. Here we have room state view, so we can say that this is the function, test function. Yeah, that's it. Test function is that. We have the checkpoints. We have room type, and that's going to be meta. Meta, a colon, and then that type. Yeah. Room name. We're going to get rid of the timestamp. We don't need that. Oh, this is our first. Okay, so that's the next thing that we want to do is we want to get this convention for the state view. Again, this is going to be something that requires an iterator because a lot of state views are collections. So we can add this purpose. F11 again in that way. Purpose. No room should be returned. Okay, good. So we capture the name of this function. And so now we can get rid of it. But I want to just, so that's interesting. So we're going to have a generic length. And we'll say what the expected length is of the collection. I think that's good. So let's just get rid of this altogether. I really, yeah, let's just copy this. Cut it out. Just get rid of this stuff here. And make sure that this first one passes with what we need. So, okay, now notice the way this looks. Fairly readable and doesn't take a lot of space. So I think I'm going to do the same thing to the previous test as soon as I'm done this. And I'm okay with it being a little bit shorter on that aspect. So here we have the state views, testing exception, and the state view is here. And here, if we have an undefined test, and we do that, and then we do slice test function, do the events. Here we want to test the, oops, writing too much bash. Test the result length. The problem, we need to make sure to test if it's an array. Test if the result is an array. Did it actually hear me say that? Scary stuff. And it's not. We want to do an if. You know what the simplest thing would be here is just to do a JSON serialize and the compare. Honestly, that's going to do the trick. I don't want to have to do all of that. The only problem is we're not going to have a nice output. We're going to just have to see the whole blob. This doesn't equal this. Which is yucky, but okay. So I'm going to have to call it quits here right after I do this. So another 2 minutes of this, and I'll come back later to finish all of this test stuff. Getting this test stuff out of our hair is really important, I think. A lot of people are still attached to tests, so let's this one's an easy test then, isn't it? I don't want an array. Get out of there. I want to now assert. And I want to JSON string. Is there like a deep compare, object compare? What's object compare? What's the JS function to compare the tree of property values between two objects, complex objects? I don't think I need to JSONify these things. I mean, for output, I would. All right. Yeah, there's object compare. This garbage. So, okay, so I can throw away all this garbage just by. No, I need deep equal. I don't want to. I don't want another npm package for that. I'm happy with just the JSON crap since we're using it for serializing things. So let's just do that. JSON stringify result equals da da da. But was, yeah. And of course, whatever. One ugly large line for now. Let's see if that works. Yeah, of course it wouldn't work. We got type error reading name. Oh, that sounds familiar. So here we have checkpoint test is not defined. Then we do that. If we have that, then we have the purpose thing here. 1292. So, okay, so we got an exception. Cannot read properly, undefined reading name. Array reuse 1230 of 2. Next clue where we are. Reduce, really? Where's name? My name, slice name, test function name. Oh, we should get rid of a lot of this other stuff here. Console log this. Get rid of that. Don't want all the events populating that stuff. Run it again like this with all the crap in there. You can kind of see tests are running, test pass, caught, error, test pass, test failed. Processing history 1288. That is the same thing as before, I believe. Yeah. Slice name. Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, because we don't have a slice name now. We do for the old ones. So summary, I mean, I could just do a slice name here and just use it there. So const slice name is all that. That's good. We can just use slice name. We can get over here and just get rid of this slice name. Hopefully that'll be okay. Nope. Still got, oh, checkpoint test name. Yep. That's interesting. Is it because we're, well, anyway, we'll get to that. I like this. Actually, I don't like that because this doesn't have a test, of course. So test failed in slice purpose. Yeah. Da, da, da. Test failed. What do we have? Oh, we have the log. Right, so I kind of don't want the logs here anymore. Or maybe I do. So yeah, we need to have this stupid should do it. Okay, now we have errors, which is good. Okay, and so we have room state view as a problem. So that's running. Room state view. So this is the first one that's, yeah. No room should be returned with no events. Yep, that's the one. So, yep, and we have object. That was, so we have a structural problem here. This is an empty set. I think it's how we're doing the test running here. State view is here. And we're getting the result. And we're getting that. And why is the JSON so gross? How do we do the other JSON serialization here? Good God, that's really bad. JSON stringify. That's all we do. Event. JSON stringify event. That's very odd. Why is it object? Let's look at our function, what it actually returns. When we go and look at our room state view, it is this. Return history reduced. So it should be this guy. That is interesting. But the other problem is that we shouldn't be failing on the other tests here. That's the greater problem. Because as we have these others coming here, so we have a timestamp, we gotta get rid of that. We have auditorium. We are trying to run these as before. And I think we just need the meta. Do we have anything in this function that does anything on we have the word event. We don't want definitely don't want those. I think that we wanted to get rid of. But still a mystery as to we're making way too many changes at once. Anyway, I gotta go eat dinner and take care of things. But I'll be back to finish this later. So see you then. Thanks for joining me, and exciting to have all these tests reduced to something smaller. If you have questions about it, join me on the Discord channel and post your questions there.